This is Do It For a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance. What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It For a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now. So I've got Steve Nichols here, the managing partner of Dyno Dynamics USA. Steve, how's it going, brother?
Good. What's up?
So, lots to talk about today. I'm super excited to have you here on Do It For a Living. Thanks for being here.
Hey, man, I appreciate the invitation, and I'm excited to participate.
Right on. So I'm going to dive right into it. You're the managing partner at Dyno Dynamics USA, and you're in Lexington, Kentucky. Is that right?
Yep.
So how does a person become the managing partner at Dyno Dynamics USA? Like, how does that happen?
Well, it's the actual title is there are 4 owners of Dyno Dynamics Australia. I'm one of those owners, and as an owner or a shareholder, I manage the U.S. division. So that's where managing director comes in. Well, I'm a director on the board. I'm a shareholder. And in doing so, we voted that I run the U.S. division. That only makes sense. So it's a long story starting back 2001. Late 2000, early 2001, I started importing the dynos from Lilydale, which is just outside of Melbourne. And at the time, I was an employee at Toyota Motor Manufacturing, where they build the Camrys in Georgetown, Kentucky.
And what were you doing there?
I was what's called a team leader. Basically, I had guys underneath me, and we ran the assembly lines in the plant, and it's the first level of management at Toyota.
Okay.
So yeah, that's where I got the lean production and management skills that that helped me along in the business that I do today. I was importing the dynos because what enticed me was I bought one with a friend of mine, and we had it in his shop. He was a VW Audi guy in Lexington, still is. His name is Chris Kapitsky. And we bought one, and I was tuning cars for Chris after work, and the owner of Dyno Dynamics at the time, Chris Hodges, and I became good friends. And the reason it was good for me is the dollar back then was worth $1 US was worth $2 Australian back then.
Oh, wow.
So I can import a dyno for $20,000 and sell it for $25,000 or $28,000 and make some good money.
Yeah.
So Chris and I became real good friends, and I flew over there and met his wife, Meryl Hodges, and met his partner, which is also his nephew. His name is Peter Humphreys. And a long story short, Chris does everything you can't see, and Peter did everything you can see. So Peter was the machinist, the designer. Chris was the software guy. He did all the hardware controls. And then they had 15 other people that did the assembly, and they made the rollers and stuff. But we signed a deal, and I just started distributing the product. And told my wife, I said, as soon as we sell because I was selling 2-wheel drives pretty regularly. I said, as soon as I sell the first all-wheel drive, I'll quit Toyota and I'll do this full time. And that was mid-2001. I can remember we were in the break room at the factory watching the 9/11 incident, watching the towers fall. So it was 9/11. So
yeah.
I quit. We sold the first all-wheel drive dyno to a customer I think everybody in the U.S. probably knows. He's pretty popular. His name is Vishnu Tuning.
Okay.
Shiv is his name, and I quit Toyota, and we started doing it full time, and then the rest you and I will discuss later on how I became an owner. Yeah, that's where we started. But the owner part of it is a little bit more convoluted than that.
So there's so many things that I want to take out of that, and we'll dive into a little bit later.
Okay.
I want to talk about the currency conversion rate and how that impacts the importing business.
Yep.
And I want to talk about lean manufacturing. There's so many things there that I want to dive into.
Sure.
But take us a little bit farther back. Like, tell us about yourself and how you got started. Take us all the way back to when you were a kid. Were you always an entrepreneurial type, and do you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
No, well, in the classic sense of was I driven to run a business? No. But, you know, I grew up in a small town in Kentucky. Lexington is a big town to us because that's all we but Lexington's 300,000 people.
Hey, I'm from a small town too.
Yeah,
my friend.
so you know, I'm from a town, Nicholasville. It's that's where I went to school. It's 50,000 people. It's not really small, but it's small in comparison to the LAs of the world.
Sure.
But no, I grew up on a 10-acre. It's not really a farm, just 10-acre plot of land, small house. But I had 3 motorcycles that were always in some sort of disassembly. I was modifying them, 2-stroke, 4-stroke. My dad was a Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche master mechanic trained in Stuttgart, Germany, back in the 70s, and he had his own business. And my summer job wasn't mowing yards. It wasn't newspapers. The standard 80s summer. My summer jobs was removing, tearing down, cleaning, painting, and rebuilding air-cooled VW motors for my dad from the age of 12 to about 17.
Okay.
And then I went to the University of Kentucky for a couple of years, did not get my degree. I took all of my upper-level courses, and when they told me I had to take my undergrad courses, I didn't want to. Back then, you could do that. But
you just took the things that you were interested in?
I didn't care about the meat and potatoes. I wanted a dessert. I wanted to know what I wanted to, So
I do know.
Yeah. So I left there and did a bunch of odd jobs here and there, did the car stereo thing for a while, did the, electronics things for a while, and then, got the job at Toyota, and that's, I worked there for 11 or 12 years. But, you got to consider I left in 2001, the position I was in, that was a $70,000 to $90,000 a year job with full benefits.
So you got the golden handcuffs on.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to look at it. But, the thing is that, you don't know until you try.
Right.
We didn't have any kids. I didn't have any debt. I didn't have any. What was I risking? I was risking if I didn't do this, I would lose the opportunity. That was the risk.
Right.
I can always get another factory job. That's not a problem. But I can't always find the Dyno Dynamics opportunity. That's the key.
So you saw an opportunity in it.
Yeah.
And you seized it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do it.
Yep.
And a lot of that is, it's important, like not having kids. Sometimes that's what you need. You need, the rest of your life needs to be in position to do that. But there's a lot of people out there that have the opposite end of the spectrum, and they can make it work too.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. There's a lot of people out there that risked a whole lot more than I did. I was at the right time. I had the right opportunity, and I had minimum risk. So to say it was a no-brainer simplifies it a little bit too much, but for me, it was. I mean, it just felt right. And when your wife is pushing you that way, and you've got that backing, you can't lose. Even if you do lose, you can't lose because everybody around me was saying, you got to do this. The opportunity's great. And so, that's why I did it.
So it's so important to surround yourself with people that, are in your corner. How important is that, having your wife on your side,
Oh, well, I mean, I've been, I'm 47 and we've been together for 20 years, and, she's everything. And, we've got a 12-year-old son, and they're the reason I do anything. They're the reason I breathe.
Right.
Yeah.
So you quit Toyota, dove into Dyno Dynamics full time.
Yep.
How do you deal with the devil on your shoulder telling you, what if this doesn't work?
Man, you've got to have the confidence that once everybody knows what you know about what you're excited about, so once everybody knows what I know about this neat little portable 1,200 horsepower dyno, they have to have it.
Yeah.
So to me,
So how do you get the word out?
well, it was through people like Ben Strader and all of the EFI contacts I made on forums and through emails. And we had, we set up a structure in the USA where we had guys strategically placed in the country where we'd give them a demo unit. They would go out to workshops and show people. But yeah, word of mouth, advertising, because you got to understand, in Australia, that is the brand. They do have competition, but Dyno Dynamics was the first. Everybody knows who they are, so it's well known. So I could get customers to call, those people, or I could set up a conference call and they would say, I've been using a Dyno Dynamics dyno for 10 years. We don't know why you Americans don't look at this stuff. And, the demonstration was the biggest thing, flying people to Kentucky or going to their shops, getting out on the road, and showing people why it was special. And then the light bulb went off. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I thought I had to have a 4-post lift or dig a hole to China or, whatever to put a dyno in my shop. And here's the other really interesting thing was, of course, back then, our dynos were, this is embarrassing to say it, but from a control standpoint, it made sense for us. Back then, our dynos were all DOS-based. And the dynos in 2001 were $47,000.
Yeah.
Here we are, 2015, more capable, more powerful Windows-based machines, $10,000 less for more capable product. So to sell a dyno back then for $47,000 was a feat. So, but once people saw it, everybody that saw it seemed to want to buy it. It was the only matter was, could they get the financing or could they find the money?
So technology's come a long way for sure.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting that you're from Lexington, Kentucky, deep in the South, surrounded by domestics, but you worked for Toyota, you sold and tuned Autronic,
yep,
and you worked with an Australian dyno manufacturer. So you're in Lexington, Kentucky, and you're looking other places. I'm curious, why aren't you just working for GM? It just looks, from the outside, maybe it just, was...
Well, your life is the paths you take or the decisions you make. So that's a good question, and I've asked it to myself many times. There's no real explanation. The first motivating factor was for me is this is a really neat product. I can get it at a really good price. I can sell it at a really good margin, and it has a great value to the customer, being portable and 2-wheel drive.
So it's win-win.
It's win-win-win. So the thing is that in 1999 is when I started, with Ray Hall and Autronic and doing. I did a lot of engine management stuff. It wasn't just Autronic, but nobody could get in this. That was nobody around here could get a car running on standalone.
Right.
I was that guy. Well, here's 10 cars that don't run. One would have electromotive, one would have fast, one would have Excel, all of them, you name it. And people didn't know how this box of switches made this car run. And my mind, because I built motors since I was 12, my mind knew how the motor worked and I knew how the box of switches worked. And it was easy. I couldn't understand why people couldn't get cars running. So they would come to me, and then in turn, it would help me sell dynos because, they knew I was that guy, and they would, when they had their shop, because that was a sport compact was the boom back then. So we sold a lot of dynos to that industry. It all just was a good marriage. The Lexington, Kentucky thing is like I tell people, I can run this business. It's not location sensitive. I can move anywhere I want to, but this is home. The biggest thing for me was how do I grow the Dyno Dynamics in the United States, North America, and get the word out? That was the hard part, like you said. How do you do that? And that's when we did the structure of doing demos, where our motto is we're not afraid to give a demo. Because we want people to see it, because if you're buying a dyno and you do your due diligence and you call manufacturers and you say, hey, I just hung up the phone with Dyno Dynamics, they're instantly going to go into why you shouldn't buy a dyno from us. And if I've given you a demonstration, you've already seen for yourself that what that other company is telling you isn't true. So
because you've seen it for yourself.
Yeah, I don't have to talk about them. And that's one of our biggest pet peeves is don't talk bad about anybody. Just let the product speak for itself. Because when that other company says, oh, they can't do that because of this roller size or because it's too small or whatever their sales pitch is, you go, well, hang on, I just saw it. It just did it. And so by default, that other person is a liar. And I don't have to say they're a liar. I showed you my product. It spoke for itself. And that's how we build the business. My guys do not talk about other brands negatively. I mean, if you're a dyno company, you do the same thing we do. You assess the market. You plan the product. You budget it. You build the best product you can. In your mind, you've done a good job. Why should my guys or myself, why should we badmouth you? That's just a big insult. So it doesn't do anybody any good. Just show the stuff and let the customer make the decision, and show your value as a company. Do it for a living. What is the value? Dyno Dynamics, what is the value? And once the customer sees the value, if you've done your job, it should be an easy sale from that point.
That's so awesome. I was going to ask you what Dyno Dynamics' competitive advantage is. Like, what keeps someone from starting a competing company? And demonstration is your competitive advantage.
It is, but
Right. I mean, other people can do that, but it's built into who you guys are.
It is. A little background on the design. We started making control systems for do you know who Sun Diagnostic Companies were?
Okay.
Do you know who that is?
Vaguely.
Okay. Well, I don't know. You may be too young, but back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, Sun was a huge company that built diagnostic equipment for.
Yeah, they're those big. Yeah. Actually, I do.
Well,
yep.
They made a chassis dyno, and it was big in Australia. And instead of having standard electronics on old electronics like receivers and houses, do you remember those things called VU meters, the big needles that go back and forth?
Okay.
Well, the dynos actually had those for readouts. So one big dial was a 0 to 300 kilowatt, and the other one was 0 to 3,000 pounds of tractive effort, and that's what you got when you bought a Sun dyno. Well, the bed was already designed, and we fitted our electronics to it and made it into a monitor PC-based dyno. That's where the small roller design came from, but those rollers were smooth. So long story short, we took that basic design, improved that design, put our electronics on it. And you say, what's your competitive advantage? Well, keep in mind that when we brought Dyno Dynamics from Australia to the United States, there did not exist a small roller dyno from any other manufacturer.
So you guys were the first.
Well, I'm not going to say we're the first. Because there were emissions dynos, but those weren't the same performance dynos, okay? Right. So what I'm saying is that we made a dent in somebody's pocketbook where they recognized these guys are taking market share. How are they doing it? How do we stop it? Well, everybody except for one company, I'm not going to throw around brand names, but all but one make a small roller dyno now.
Yeah.
So that's the influence that, passion, the the get out there and show people, the demonstration. So,
that's the impact that it can have.
Yeah, that's the impact. That's how you differentiate is, it's just like, any other product. It's, we'll just build one like they're building and we'll just piggyback off of their success. So, some companies built one to sell off of it, say, no, we make one, but we really don't want to sell it to you. Or, yeah, we've got one just like they do. And that's not what innovation is about. That's not what, being different is about. It's not about copying a design and being just like that person, or here's the same looking bed with the same looking parts for $10,000 less. It doesn't work that way. We call it spec sheet racing. So when you have two spec sheets and you check off, that doesn't work for any industry, to be quite honest.
Right. Just comparing a list of features and benefits isn't the same thing as real world.
Yeah, you can't, because my feature that I call steady state, you can have that same feature on your spec sheet and the customer checks it off and goes, well, this guy's got it and this guy's got it. Well, if they both got it, and this one's $10,000 less, that's a better value to me. Well,
but clearly there's differences.
There is differences, but it's my job to show and tell those differences.
Right. So I bought a Dyno Dynamics from you in 2005 because of a high-level friend's recommendation. And I've just recently purchased another Dyno Dynamics dyno.
Glutton punishment.
I had that DOS-based machine until very recently, and I love that thing.
Yep.
Like, matter of fact, I just loaded it up to its new owner a couple of days ago. And, I spent 10 years on that dyno, and that thing was a beast. When we first got it from you, there was an issue with the bearing, and I called you. You sent a guy out here and had it fixed like ASAP. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yep.
And that was huge for me.
Yep.
Because there's no joke. Steve, when I bought a dyno from you, I was 23 years old. I wrote the check at SEMA.
I remember.
And I flew home that same day. And I was up all night that night throwing up. No joke.
The ultimate buyer's remorse.
No, because, look, I knew I was going to do it. I'm going to make it happen, but I had no idea how I was going to make it happen. I knew that I needed to get a dyno and get my foot in the door and start to figure it out. And it's taken me a long time to be able to add value to people. And but it was a tough thing. And when we had that issue, literally was fixed so fast it wasn't even an issue. And that machine has been next level reliable for me. I haven't done anything else for it. And it just continues to work, and that's huge for me, both the fact that the machine's robust and that when we had an issue you were there. It really spoke volumes to me about wanting to be able to do business with people like you.
Well, I appreciate it, and that means a lot to us. My partner, Alan, and his wife, Ann, they run the shop back in Australia, and that's one of the things that we work on is, that kind of stuff costs money. But,
yeah.
But, the thing is that it costs money both ways. If you do it, it costs money, and if you don't do it, it costs money.
Mm-hmm. It just depends on when you're going to spend the money.
Right.
You're either going to get a repeat customer
right.
and eat some money right now, yeah. And you might get a lifetime customer and a lifetime of referrals.
Right.
Or you're going to tell them to kick rocks, and you're going to lose that customer and his lifetime of referrals.
And every company that exists, every single company that exists has just the opposite experience. So there are people out there that are like you, and then there are customers that we have that no matter what we do, we can't make them happy. But
yeah.
The thing is, if we follow the same formula, the majority is going to be happy, and that majority is going to spread the word for us, and we'll grow. The easiest sale to make in any business is one that comes from a referral like yourself.
Referral is probably how you have to sell large dollar pieces of equipment like yours.
Yeah, I mean, and until you just said that on your podcast about, owning two dynos, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but the thing is that I'm sure you've told other people over the past 11 years you've owned your first dyno that you do it all over again. And that's what we work hard to achieve. Is we're not the cheapest in the industry, and we're never going to be. But the value is not how many features per dollar. The value is that the tool always works and the tool does what it's advertised. That's the value. That's what we try to explain to people. It's not 1,000 features for $40,000. It's steady state does this. This is what it means to you, and it shows you the information live. And how does that benefit you as a tuner and a business owner? And when it breaks down, like you said, service is key. Like I said, it costs you one way or the other. I'm either going to spend $500 to send somebody out there with a bearing, or I'm going to lose a $40,000 sale in 3 months because you said I didn't take care of you quick enough.
Yep. That's a tough pill to swallow for some people, but you have to realize that it's not just about the money that's right in front of your nose. It's about relationships with your customers and with the industry. Relationships are everything. They
are. You're absolutely correct.
So we've talked about the dyno business. We've talked about Dyno Dynamics. We've talked about Steve Nichols coming up. Now I want to talk about a really bad experience. Tell us the worst experience that you've suffered in the time that you've been running Dyno Dynamics.
The worst experience I've had running Dyno Dynamics was 2009. A little background information. Chris and Peter were the original owners of the company. They sold out to a large investment group who owned several small companies like Dyno Dynamics. And the financial crisis happened. Sales went down. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes things that went on. Long story short, the board of directors for that investment group decided to put Dyno Dynamics into administration.
And an administration is a thing in Australian government.
Well, they do it here in the U.S., but it's just not the same. You could say it's administration is when somebody goes into a business and says, and that somebody is a very powerful private sector business person that goes in and says, okay, is this business viable? Meaning, can I come in here and run this business and get it back up on its feet and hand the keys back over to the owners? Or is it insolvent? Can it just not do business any longer? So because of some decisions that were made by the board that owned Dyno Dynamics, it was determined to be...
Can you step back 1 second? And Dyno Dynamics was owned by a larger corporation that owned multiple automotive companies.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So back then, you weren't an owner...
No.
...in Dyno Dynamics in the same capacity that you are now.
Correct.
Okay.
I was still important. Actually, back then, we were building the dynos in the United States, and the electronics were coming over from Australia. So we built the beds, the rollers, assembled everything in the U.S., and then we fitted the electronics, calibrated everything, and shipped them out from Lexington.
Okay.
So is that all you wanted to go back on, touch on that?
No, I want to.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to get the foundation built up so people can understand.
I was not an owner then. So they determined that the Dyno Dynamics was insolvent. They couldn't do business. So everybody turned in their phones, their gas cards, their company car keys. The doors were locked, and we had to go do PRI 2009 when all this was happening. So we get word that the doors were closed, and we go down and do PRI anyway. So in PRI, there's a section, back then, there was a section dedicated for Australian companies. And it was headed up by what's called the AAA. That's the Australian Automotive Aftermarket Group that set up the booth section space for Australian vendors. And people were just staring at us because it was big news in Australia.
Okay.
So, we're there. We've got inventory. We're showing our dyno, acting like nothing's happening. And people were like, well, what are you doing here? Didn't you guys file bankruptcy? It wasn't bankruptcy. It was, weren't you in administration? And we're like, well, the Australian company is, but the U.S. company has product. We're still servicing, selling dynos to customers. And yeah, we sold a couple at the show, and, we just kept the name going. After that was over, myself, Alan Evans, Ann Evans, and Terry McDonald all got together and put a bid in on the remaining intellectual property, all the trademarks, the names, the patents, and we won the bid for the company. We bought it from the administrators and invested some cash and started the business back up, hired 70% of the old staff. We hired them back. So all of the, the guys that are designing the current product know all about the old stuff too. So it's all the history is back, so we're in the same building. We make all the, we use the same machines. We bought everything back from the company. So it's, it's tough because, we thank goodness for having a good name, because the Dyno Dynamics name around the world is a very revered, it's a revered name. It's a very desired name. So, from Europe to Asia to Australia to North America, it's just it's a very respected name. And because of that, it's taken us less time to get back up on our feet. We've released, we're on our 5th new dyno already.
Dyno design? Yeah,
dyno design. The dyno tech that we've released, I don't know how far you want to get into it, but that's, in short, recovering from, administration, buying the company. That's, risking that again. That's another risk, because,
You mean releasing an entry-level product?
No.
Is that what you're talking about?
Trying to, the first risk was doing the dyno business and quitting Toyota. The second risk was investing more money into a company that just went into administration to buy it. So now we're buying a company that has, gone bust, and we're trying to resurrect it. So that's the next risk. Is I believe so much in the company and the brand and the product and the people that, I'm not going to let it fail. We've got, we have more to bring to the world. We're not done. And so, myself and Ann and Alan and Terry, we all believe that same dream. And, that's why we did what we did in bringing Dyno Dynamics back, because the doors were shut. It was closed.
So how did you feel during that time?
No,
you have to have that pit in your stomach.
Yeah, you're just like when you bought your dyno. It's, you're up all night, you're sick. It's like, well, who am I? What do people think? How will we ever survive? And, the whole time this is going on, you fail to realize the world is still turning. People still need this equipment. You're still a desired brand. It's the people that run the company they were the problem. It's not the brand. It's not the product. It was the management that was the problem. So that's the key factor is, it's there again, I still had that burning desire to sell those dynos. It was a great business opportunity. Now I could affect change in the company as an owner.
Right.
So no matter how perfect the public thinks a product is, the people that work at the company know it's not perfect. So now as an owner, I could affect change. I could go in and say, man, well, let's do this different. Let's do that different. I've had this objection since day one. Let's fix it. So that was my new desire, was to make it even better. And, like I said, we all invested our share of the money, and we put some money in for cash flow, and we hired people, and I'm, doing business in Australia is very expensive because cost of living over there is so high. So, when you hire 14 people, that's a huge responsibility. So yeah, employees get paid first. That's just the rule. That's my rule. Employees get paid first. So,
yep.
It's, it was rough, Reed, I won't lie. It's hard to knock on doors. And one of the things in the back of your mind is, does this guy know what happened last year? Or does this guy know what happened last month?
And how does he perceive it?
Yeah. How does he perceve it? And all you can do is be honest about it and give them the truth. That's all anybody wants to know. It's it was bad management and bad money management, and bad management, unforeseen, not prepared for the global financial crisis. That's what they call it in Australia, by the way. Not prepared. Huh?
It's funny because another guest that had it from Australia referred to it as the GFC, like in passing, and I was like, "What is the GFC?"
Yeah. Well, that's how their media refers to it. So, it's almost becoming like a disease. Like everybody knows somebody that's been through it. So coming through rough times is becoming so normal that bankruptcy, cancers, it's everybody knows somebody that's had these financial difficulties, and we need to learn from them and what did they grasp to pull them out of it, or what desire did they have that was so burning inside them that they had to fix it. And, for some people, it's just a good business opportunity and they made it work. Some people, it's a passion. Some people, it's a purpose. I've heard the argument, is it a purpose? Is it a passion? For me, it was, I had great partners. Alan Evans is he's the director, he's on the board of directors of CAMS, which is like NASCAR. So they're an FIA group, so they set up all of the Formula One races. They do the V8 touring car stuff. So he's well known. He was also the president of the NRMA, which is the Australian equivalent to the AAA. So he was always on TV telling about why gas was expensive and why roads sucked. And, so Alan is a public figure over there. So his figure and his reputation helped build the brand in Australia. So once he was on board, it instantly gave the company credibility because of who Alan was.
Right.
But yeah, it was a great, Terry was sales manager. He did a great job. It was good people in the right place at the right time. And, it's sometimes the risk is just worth it.
That's an incredible story.
Thank you.
You have every situation and every excuse to just curl up in a ball and, let all of these pressures break you down. But you didn't let the devil on your shoulder, pour poison into your ear. So you guys identified that it wasn't the product that was the problem, it was management. So that's gone. Now you can put people in place, affect change the way that you wanted to, make the product better, and just persevere.
Yep.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, well, once you're sold on the product, everything else is easy, meaning I can hire good people, but our product has a track record. It has a history. It has a reputation. I can't buy that. Well, I did. Yeah. I can't create that overnight, but I can find a software guy. I can find a welder. So that's
right, but you can't build a brand reputation
Correct.
Overnight.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Steve, what's your Achilles heel? As a manager and a business owner, what are you not good at?
Delegation.
So you try to do everything yourself?
Always.
Yeah?
It's just teaching. My problem is I'm short-sighted. So it's meaning I think it's faster if I do it myself, rather than saying, yes, it's faster, but you can't grow unless you can delegate that.
It's not scalable.
It's not scalable. So I'm not a patient person. So if I know I can do it faster than you, why teach you? Because I'm only going to get frustrated teaching you. And that's a selfish way to live. But, we're talking about what's my Achilles heel. I'm not organized, and I hate delegating, because delegation opens up too many negatives to the one positive. So what I mean by that is, if I delegate you to do something and you screw it up, well, I've got to fix your screw up. Then I've got to take time to train you to not screw up again. Then I might have to pay for whatever your screw up cost the company, and then hope when I train you again, you succeed next time. So for me, I'm avoiding 3 or 4 really bad things that I don't want to deal with just by doing it myself. Because if I screw up, nobody's harder on me than myself.
Right.
And if I screw up, it's you don't know what I know. So when I screw up, I can understand it better. When you screw up, it's because I didn't teach you what I know. And that's my fault, not your fault. So as only when I'm dealing with my son do I seem to have any patience with teaching. It's one of the things that I try to make myself understand is if you can't do something physically, that's not your fault. If you can't lift 1,000 pounds, look, that's not your fault. We'll find some way to help you with that. But if you have the normal mental capacity and you constantly make mental errors, that's what I have a hard time dealing with. And that goes for myself. I point the finger at myself as well. So, mental errors are the most unforgivable things for me because if you know the right way and you don't do it, that's the tough one. So I would rather be hard on myself than to be hard on you, and that's why I have a hard time delegating anything to anybody. It's other than tax. I can delegate only when I absolutely know nothing about the subject, i.e. taxes.
Yeah.
So I don't mind delegating that stuff. So that's my Achilles heel. Organization and delegation are my Achilles heels.
Awesome. It's a tough thing that we all struggle with for sure.
Oh yeah, it's hard. Well, you're putting your reputation and your company in other people's hands, and it's personal. They say don't take it. Well, I have to take it personal. Because it's my life, it's my financial future, it's my risk. So yeah, it is personal. If I have trained a person and they screw up and it could affect me in the business, I have to take that personally. I'm not supposed to, but I do because that's the passion from me to the business. It's personal. I'm hurt. So yeah, that's something I've got to work on. That's what I always tell my wife. It's my fault. And when I say that, I mean, we all have faults. That's one of my faults is I hate delegating. I would rather work 2 hours extra in a day to make sure I did it myself than delegate it and go home on time.
But you recognize the importance of delegation for sure. It's just hard to do. Wozniak and Jobs were only 2 guys. They could have never done what they did with Apple unless they delegated. So, of course,
they were the core, they were the kernel. But you have to delegate. Have to.
Yep. So, what's your big, hairy, audacious goal, Steve? Big, hairy, audacious goal. What do you want?
The big goal. I want to continue to grow the Dyno Dynamics and the Dyno Tech brand as the most desired dyno brand in the world.
And who's your ideal client? Do you guys target a specific market?
Well, by default, you have to target the performance industry because that's what the market dictates. But no, our action. One of the really interesting differences between the Australian culture and the U.S. culture is your regular mom and pop garage shops in Australia have chassis dynos. So what you and I grew up in the U.S. as knowing as the full service gas station, where they come out and wash your window, check your oil, fill your gas up, check your tire pressure, and then they would do some service work too. Those shops in Australia have chassis dynos.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's more for the use of a rolling road than it is for performance. So that's what we're trying to get the U.S. clientele to understand is if you have a regular service shop and I call you up and I say, hey, are you interested in a chassis dyno? You go, we don't do performance work. And normally that ends the phone call and you hang up. What we're trying to get the people to understand is that there's 6 feet of snow on the ground and on east of the Mississippi, we all had a lot of snow this year. So there's a lot of snow on the ground. You've just put a clutch in a car. Why send your tech out on the street to test drive? Just pull it up on the dyno. And that's what we're trying to get the general repair shops to understand. So now we're OBD2. That's one of the new products that we're working on with a third party person. He's a referral I'm going to give you when we get done with our interview. But they're making a CAN interface because OBD2 is pretty slow, and we want more data than just OBD2. So they're working on getting all of the General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, Volkswagen, Audi group, all those CAN protocols in a device and spit that out into our dyno over CAN. So we can get all the long-term fuel trims and the O2 commanded O2s and all the stuff out of the stock ECU so the technician can use the dyno as a service tool rather than a performance tool. Diagnosing, why is my car misfiring? Well, what does the tech do? He puts a scan tool in, and he goes, random misfire, cylinder 1. Okay, well, it doesn't tell him what to fix, so he calls up the parts place and says, send me plugs, coils, wires. He orders everything, and then he starts swapping parts. Then he goes out on 5 test drives until it's fixed. You do all that on a dyno in the confinements of your shop while it's going at speed, and you can swap the parts out, and diagnose it in a matter of seconds rather than risking the car, the employee, and whoever else they might hit out on the open road. So, we're working with a large insurance group right now on getting some dynos put in their repair facilities because they had no idea. And once we showed them the opportunity, that's where I hope to take dyno in the United States, in Canada, and in around the world, is into every single shop as a service tool. I mean, you go buy an alignment rack. What can that alignment rack do? It can align your car. What else can it do? It can align your car. Great. Well, they cost more than our dynos.
Yeah.
Our dynos can have many, many, many purposes inside of a shop. Performance is just one. And that's what we mean by value. So if I show you 10 revenue streams that have nothing to do with performance and take the salesman mentality out of your tech, a tech does not want to tell a customer they need X, Y, and Z. They hate doing that. They want to work on the car and get paid. Well, if he or she doesn't have to sell something, they just simply put the customer in the car and say, hear that noise? That's your CV joint. It's your choice. You can fix it now or you can pull over later. Your choice. So it adds credibility to the service center trying to sell the work. And that's the value that we bring. So then when they analyze the overall price of the product we're selling, they're going, well, wait a minute. We've got an alignment rack that all it does is align a car. That's all it can do, and it's $60,000. But this dyno can do 10 different things and bring in 10 different revenue streams. So then they start putting every single car on the dyno. It's just part of the process.
So that brings up an interesting point. Is it possible to get with an insurance company and show them that maybe 50% of the cars aren't going to go out on road test drives with your technicians? And is it possible to get reduced insurance rates, do you think?
Well,
I wonder if that could be a benefit.
Well, that's what we're working with.
And more than that, some technicians maybe have bad driving records, so they're not able to. I know that's a problem in the industry. Certain insurance companies won't insure certain technicians based on their driving record.
Correct. No, that's a very good point. Yeah, the company we're working with has service centers, and they're the largest insurance roadside assistance group in the United States. That's all I can say. They are actually running the numbers on how much risk insurance is for road going test drives, and we're still waiting to hear back on that information. They've got bean counters and penny pinchers that have to validate this based on return on investment. So
Sure.
Yes, I know it is because I've worked in the shop. I know what's at risk. And every shop that exists that's been around for any length of time can tell you that they've had that experience. But I don't think that you can walk into an insurance company and say, well, like you can go buy a car and say it's got an alarm and to get a discount for your alarm. I don't think we're there yet. But yes, I know the potential exists, but it's my job to show why. It's just common sense. I mean, it's, you keep the car in the shop and you keep the mechanic off the road, and there are less lives at risk at that point. And not only that, but the shop can physically show the customer while the car is running what's wrong with their car. And so it takes, well, is the shop lying to me? Is the shop, well, ma'am, here it is. Sir, here it is. And then they can swap the part right in front of them and fix it and go, now it's fixed.
Yep. It adds credibility.
It does. It adds credibility. It's just like when you do performance work, here's the before, here's the after, pay me.
Yep.
And there you go. And
you see it. It means everything.
You got it. It's tangible. Go.
Yep. That's something that people really need to understand is the power in a before and after dyno. So if a car comes in and you're just going to do, like, say, bolt-ons and a tune, if you can do a before and an after and print that out, that means everything to a customer for sure. It's way different. People need to understand that it's way different and it feels way different to see it than to be told it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and
see it on a dyno sheet that says it came in with this power and it left with this power. That means more than if you say the same thing.
Well, one of the sayings that goes back for many years is you drive torque and you sell horsepower. And you can bring a car in that you may not make any more peak horsepower, but the area under the curve is so much greater. When they go drive it, they feel like it's got more peak horsepower.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you've done that hundreds of times. All of our tuners have. So, it's that's the tool. You've got to have that tool. I tune on the street. Well, great. Well, how do you know you've made it better? It's, if it's full throttle only, that's only one area. If you drive it home, does it drive better when you drive home? Why does it drive better when you drive home? So, the dyno is a necessary tool for sure for the performance industry. How many hours have you wasted on a chassis dyno, or how many nights have you gone, crap, it's midnight, I need to be home? Because you're learning. It's for a new tuner, a chassis dyno, a PC laptop, and some tuning software are the single most effective ways to waste time, but learn that they'll ever have in any point in their career. They cannot learn more than having those tools to play with in their shop. And that's the facts. I mean, you've done it. You've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
You've gone, wow, I never knew that could happen. I didn't know this even. How did that happen? And you dig into the reasons why it happened, and you build a business around it, and you show people. It's that.
Hey, without the data, you can't. You wouldn't even have those little clues to start going down the rabbit's trail.
No.
And that happens all the time. Without the real data, like if you were just doing it on the street, you would have no idea little things are happening that point you to problems in the calibration. Like that kind of stuff happens all the time.
Yeah, well, our competitors like to use smoothing factors. And tuners use them to make graphs look better. That's not a service that's a disservice to the customer. And you don't learn anything as a tuner. So it's that raw, unfiltered, live to screen 50 times a second. That data is so valuable, to learn from. And that's, we take it for granted. You and I, we see it every day. We use it. We think to ourselves, well, how can you tune without this? And that's the passion that we have. When I walk into a performance shop, I know without a shadow of a doubt that nobody can sell their tool to be better tuning tool than mine. Because I've done it for 12 years, 14 years. And it's, that's just it. And the industry has said there's no better way to tune a car. Tuning schools have said there's no better way to tune a car. and it's been repeated on this continent, in Asia, in Europe. So, that's what it's all about. I had that passion in 2001 that, God, man, if people could see this thing and how it works and its size, every shop would want one. And that's where it started. That's where the fire started.
That's awesome. Steve, we like to take action on Do It for a living.
Uh-oh.
Can you suggest one action item to our listeners that they can do this week to improve their situation?
Wow. I would say, look, it depends on what point in life you are and what you're trying to do. If you're starting, my suggestion is to find a mentor that will take you in and will work your butt off so that you learn what you desire to know. That mentor can show you why the business is great and why this sucks and how to get around all the obstacles. That is the one lesson in life I was never taught that I wish I had. Now, by default, Chris Hodges was a mentor because he took me under his wing, taught me about the dyno business, helped me sell chassis dynos. He was a great help. But I think if you say, man, I really want to be a tuner, I really think I can do this stuff. Education, mentor, and you got to bite the bullet. You got to do it. You got to find a way to get the guts to call up Reed and say, dude, I need the keys to your shop. I want to use your dyno after hours. Let's work something out. You've got to find a way to say, can I work for you for minimum wage and you teach me how to tune? Or can I? You got to find a way to make yourself go after it because nobody's going to give it to you. You got to go get it. First, you got to determine if that's your true passion and purpose. And then once you do, the rest should really take care of itself. If it's not your passion and purpose, you're going to be struggling to get that drive. So I would say find a mentor, somebody that can direct you and help you make fewer mistakes. That's the key. That's what I really want to get to is a mentor will not only teach you, but he or she keeps you from making those costly mistakes that everybody in business is going to make. So that would be the one thing that I would say I would recommend.
That's so awesome and perfect because I've realized that myself. I have a mentor. I have an official mentor, yeah, and I have unofficial mentors that have helped me through this industry and through different topics. I have a business mentor. I have friends in the industry that I've leaned on to help me understand certain concepts. And yeah, a lot of times it's hard to pick up the phone and ask a question that you think is stupid, but you got to do it. And more importantly, you have to hold yourself accountable because, look, there are stupid questions. People like to say there's not stupid questions, but there are stupid questions. It's okay to go ahead and ask them, but don't absolve yourself of the responsibility of, doing the research and doing the hard work. Like, it's not acceptable to just ask stupid questions because you're lazy, right?
Right.
But it's absolutely important to ask the people that know, try to build those relationships, and be on a quest for more knowledge. Just, again, ask the question, but don't absolve yourself of the responsibility of at least giving it a noble effort on your own beforehand, because there's a lot of good information out there.
Oh,
these
yeah.
days.
No, I agree totally. I mean, Ben Strader at EFI University is, I'll call him a friend. I don't know if he considers me a friend, but I'll say he's my friend. We go back many, beyond, 1999, 1998, and, he was the first. And many have come along, and some bring little pieces that he hasn't quite done yet. But Ben is an excellent mentor. He's actually put himself in a position to say, people are willing to pay me for what I know. And I don't know, dude, but I've been to a lot of seminars, and he has got to be one of the top 5 speakers I've ever watched.
Yeah.
It's so effortless, and the information just flows out of him like it's just so, I mean, it's easy to understand. He speaks normal, you know, he doesn't talk over your head. He's always got a smile on his face. He's always got a good humor to his presentation. But, you know, you're right. Just, you can find, the thing is that when you go to search for a mentor, just keep in mind that they have all the value. You have to bring something to the table. Whether it's their desire to see you succeed, is that enough for them? Or do they need something more out of the relationship? You got to dig that out of them, because until you do, it's going to be hard to convince them that they need to be your mentor.
Absolutely. That's another thing that people need to realize is, look, it's okay to ask a question. For sure. Matter of fact, you need to step out of your comfort zone and ask a question, but try to do it in a way that you're not just taking, right?
Yeah.
Like, try to give back for sure. Everybody, that's the key to relationships. You can't just take, right?
Absolutely.
Value exchange for sure. But don't let that sway you from asking the question.
No, you go get it. Yeah, I mean,
go get the answer to that question.
Absolutely.
So there's never been a time that you can get more access to the amount of information that you can right now. Like, the answers are out there if you're just willing to look, for sure.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Learn to Google.
So cool. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said learn to Google.
Learn to Google.
Yeah.
Just ask Uncle Google.
Yes.
For sure. So we dove deep, and now we're out of the woods, and we're just going to dive into some quick answer questions.
Okay.
And we don't have to get into the nitty-gritty anymore.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Go for it.
So quick answer questions. Just take a minute to answer these questions without getting too deep. But tell us about a game-changing product that you've seen in the last year.
The Apple Watch. No, the Plex Tuning PCM 1000.
Yeah?
Yeah. And, you know, you sent
without getting too much into it, but why?
Combustion analysis is
you mean the knock module?
No.
Okay.
Most people don't even know they make it, but if you go to their website and type in PCM-1000, that is their combustion analysis machine.
I'll go into it. Let's do it.
Yeah, okay. Well, basically, they're known for their knock boxes, their knock monitors, and their boost controllers and their dashes. But on a much higher level, they sell a portable, rechargeable, standalone, very small portable combustion analysis machine. Basically, you just give it your pressure sensors and your encoder pattern from your crank trigger, and it can not only record at really 1,000 hertz, 2,000 hertz, but it's self-contained, meaning it has the display built in. You don't have to use the software, but it also has very powerful software. The reason I think it's the game changer is I think that is the last frontier for consumer instrumentation as far as it relates to performance data. Now, that's a long sentence, fragmented as well. But what I'm getting at is wideband AFRs 12 years ago cost $6,000. Okay.
And now you can get it for $200.
Yeah, and you get a darn good one for $200. So what you've got now is combustion analysis machines are $50,000 plus sensors, and the sensors are $1,500 a piece. But it's the last frontier for the average performance guy, and it's just now we're on the forefront of making it affordable. Not me, I'm not. It's Demetrius and Andreas at the Plex Tuning. They're the masterminds, but their device is less than $10,000 with sensors, and that is huge. I know of a pro stock car team that recently, last year, took their engine to a NASCAR tuner in Mooresville, and that guy charged them $200,000 to plot MBT with a combustion analysis machine. Yeah. So now you and I can own now here's the problem. The technology is great, but the information is not really there yet because there's only a handful of people in the world that really know what the combustion analysis data is. And I'm waiting for Ben Strader to be the first one to offer that to people because it's going to be very relevant in the near future. The limiting factor right now, it's the same thing with direct injection. Our limiting factor is injectors. So with this technology, our limiting factor is the sensors because they're so expensive. And they have to be drilled directly into the combustion chamber. But the information you get is you throw away your air fuel, you throw away your knock, you throw everything away because it's all right. Actually, it'll even give you.
So it's combustion pressure. It's monitoring what's going on in the cylinder.
At temperature, pressures, where they occur, before, after TDC, how big is it?
And you said 1,000 hertz?
I think they do up to 2,000 hertz.
Okay.
But the information and videos are all on their line, and that's the game changer for me. I guess it's just the first product I've seen that's affordable, and it contains the technology that I know the standalone dyno performance industry. We're going to have to get there eventually.
All right. Well, we dove in way deeper than I wanted to, but that's awesome. We got to do it.
That's all right.
Absolutely. So what software program are you using on a daily basis?
We use in the office, it's a program called ACT. It's a CRM, Contact Resource Manager. Okay. Knowing who Reed is, what dyno he's got, what software is on it, when was the last time he called, should we try to sell him an upgrade, what in our upgrade will help him. It's basically our worldwide link. So I can log in and see what the salesmen in Australia are doing, see what the sales guys in the U.S. are doing, and then I can study that and help them develop strategies to help customers. So it's the database of all of our customers, what they own, and it's our diary. It's our customer diary.
Yep. So you have all your stored information about your customers, the products they own, and the problems they have.
Yeah, I have the dyno you bought 11 years ago. I have the original zip disk file downloaded into ACT. So if that customer that you sold it to ever needs a backup, I've got it in ACT. So, that's what we use it for. It's a common place for all the records and all the data pertaining to every customer we've ever serviced.
Awesome. How about a favorite app that you use daily? Are you a mobile guy?
Yeah, I'm an Android guy. I use Dropbox and OneDrive. Because if I'm at home and I don't have my laptop, I can log into your machine, download a file from OneDrive or Dropbox, and then you can execute it. Or if you want to update your dyno, we're going to do that, I guess, soon. We're going to update your all-wheel drive. I can log into your dyno and I can download the files from OneDrive rather than transferring from PC to PC.
Okay. So it's data storage.
Data storage, yeah. Online data, cloud data storage.
Gotcha. And what about a favorite shop tool?
Well, my favorite tangible tool is my Fluke voltmeter. It just, it just works. It's 10 years old. I don't think I've ever put a battery in the thing, and I use it every day. So that's my favorite tangible tool. TeamViewer and LogMe and Rescue have to be my favorite tools because it allows me to do a quantity of work over many platforms and laptops at the same time. I can just toggle between your dyno, a guy's dyno in England, and I can get what I have to get done online. It's like I'm there. I'm remotely there.
So TeamViewer, and what was the other one?
LogMe and Rescue.
LogMe and Rescue. And what's the difference between the two?
TeamViewer is they advertise it as a use this for free. We bought a license, but you use it for free. Like if you're tuning a guy's car and he's at the track, he can log in, download it for free, and you can use it a couple of times and they don't say anything. It's just screen sharing, remote screen sharing, and then LogMe and Rescue is what they allow you to customize it so that it automatically installs. You just double click on it. There's no setup. that's what we sell with our dynos. It comes with our dyno software. So on your desktop, on your new machine, when you open up the desktop, there will be a link there that says Dyno support. And when you double click on it, it just tells me that Reed's online and he needs help.
Okay, and then you can control my PC using LogMe and Rescue?
Yes.
Cool. That's good stuff. Got to have tools like that when you're managing customers from all over the world.
Yeah, it just makes things so much easier.
Nice. So to end the conversation, Steve, I just got a couple of last questions for you, starting with, what do you think the future of automotive performance is?
Unfortunately, it's direct injection. And I only say that because we're limited by what Bosch and Siemens and Hitachi will give us for performance injectors, because they're not as easy to modify and create as a port injector is. The hybrid technology is obviously going to be there. Scott Speed is, I speak to him on a regular basis. He's an ex-Formula One guy. But Scott, he finished second at the first E-Speed race where all the cars, the Indy cars were all, hybrids. Or they were all pure electric cars, actually. So, and he races for the Andretti Group. So that was pretty neat to hear from him. I said, well, how does it drive? He said, well, they drive like crap because you can't hear anything. You can't hear the motor. You can only hear the tires squealing and barking and chirping. And he said that tactile information from your ears to your brain to your foot, you're so in tune with a motor and a clutch and a brake and a gas pedal that when the sound goes away, your feet don't know what to do, and you're out of sync. So they're actually engineering a way to put earpieces that have engine noises related to RPM of an engine, so he can get that sensation back again.
Wow. That's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Drivers that are really successful in standard racing might do really poorly racing electric vehicles.
Well, he said it's torque on demand, and he said it's a completely different sensation because it's steering by wire, it's drive by wire, there's no sound, it's brake by wire because the brakes are not normal brakes, they brake by using the motor. So he said it's just a completely different feel, and it's so much harder to get used to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we've talked about all these different things. We dove into all kinds of different things, including your big, hairy, audacious goal.
Mm-hmm.
What's the immediate future for Steve Nichols and for Dyno Dynamics?
We have recently released our Daytona chassis dyno. It's a bigger dyno meant for higher speeds, bigger power. We have 2 new engine dynos that are being released. They're both eddy current and portable. So you don't need a water tower. You can just plug the dyno into the wall and bolt the engine stand up to the dyno and go. And there are a couple other things that I'm not allowed to talk about yet, but they will be very promising in the industry. But yeah, we hope to have something for every need. That's our goal. We don't want to have to make excuses as to why we don't make something. And with the engineering resources we have and the modeling capabilities we have with our software that we bought, we can make anything, virtually anything, online, on our PC, and getting it made is so much quicker these days. So, yeah, just constantly adding new models, building the brand. And education, that's the key. Getting out there and showing people why it's better, how it's better, and the big key, how they can make money. That's the thing.
Absolutely. So your sell is, what's important to a shop is look at this as an investment, and here's how you can calculate your ROI.
Yeah, I had to sell you, so we're not the cheapest thing out there. And I tell people all the time, okay, so. You say you can buy the same thing for $10,000 less, so you have Craftsman tools. No, I've got Snap-on. Oh, okay. Great. Well, that $30 10 millimeter ratchet that just broke, you can get that for $7 with a lifetime warranty from Sears. Yeah, but it's not a Snap-on. So,
right.
You know, the thing is that that's the desire we want to build.
So I've really enjoyed the conversation today, Steve. I found out that's awesome. Thanks very much. I've learned a lot of different things that I didn't previously realize you guys were working on. So that's awesome. I'm going to stay tuned to see what you guys are coming out with next. I want to know a little bit more about that. How do we connect with you and your company?
Our phone number's been the same for 11 years. It's 866-GET-DYNO, GETDYNO. And you can contact us at sales@dyno.com or contact me directly at Steven, STEVEN, @dyno.com.au.
Awesome. Steve, thanks so much.
Oh, thank you for the service you're providing to the industry. I think it's great.
Awesome. I'll talk to you soon.
See you, Reed.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website, doitforaliving.net. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone.